Hey, it's Richard Mellor here again from Facts for Working People, and I want to wish everybody a happy new year. I've been thinking the last 2-3 days about trying to talk about this issue, but I started to do it last Friday, but I got so mad, I just sounded like a nutcase. But what I want to just talk about, I was reading an article in the Wall Street Journal on Friday about opioid abuse. I used to just say narcotic abuse among veterans, and it's a pretty sad state of affairs. And the article, what I thought, so for me, there's all sorts of things mixed up with this. Yes, the drug abuse, but B, the whole question of veterans, how we see them, how they portray the military in society. In American society, it's a very militaristic society. I don't recall us singing a national anthem at football games. The military is everywhere in sports. The ads are all about joining the army instead of knitting when it's a woman's show or something feminine, although women are in the military now. More. But so it's an article about that, and I mean it's a real crisis. There's been 300,000 Americans have died since the late 90s from what I would call a narcotic abuse. They call it opioid abuse, different opiates, I guess. 300,000. You know, I'm supposed to be worried about ISIS or Iran. 300,000 Americans have died. Veterans are 10 times more likely to die or to become addicted than the average American. And so it's about this crisis of the veterans. And I read some of this stuff. This is in the Wall Street Journal, and it sort of attacks the VA. I don't know enough about the VA, but it's a government agency, and I know that all the phony flag waving and patriotic and nationalistic stuff is all reserved for when they send working class young people out. They're not so receptive when they come back. And the thing is, of course, is that because of technology, and we've talked about technology on this blog, military technology in the relation to body armor, there's a 90% survival rate from the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and the numerous war on terror, which is a perpetual war that US capitalism is waging. So there's a massive amount of sick, not just mentally ill, but which a war will do. A real war is not like Hollywood and Schwarzenegger and Stallone, what it'll do to people, but physical damage. The people are not dying the way they used to. And so they're coming back, there's double amputees, they're blown off from the waist, you're not fighting conventional wars and all that. So the VA, it says, it doled out all of these opiates in the first 15 years of the decade here. And it says the VA is now struggling to undo the damage hampered by budgetary and bureaucratic obstacles. It's failed to build a rehabilitation program robust enough to meet the overwhelming demand for treatment from the tens of thousands of veterans. I mean, so first thing I thought about, well, I know what bureaucracy is, but why are there any budgetary issues? You know, we've got plenty of money, and the wars are costing, I think the two, Afghanistan and Iraq, are about $700 million a day. So that was the first question. Why are they don't ask, of course, why there's budgetary restraints. Because there shouldn't be budgetary restraints when people are sick, especially those who have been through what veterans have been through, and you don't have to support wars to support those working class kids that have fought in them, and make sure they're taken care of. I grew up in a military family, and my dad was a prisoner of war in Japan, and for the entire war. Might have saved his life, by the way. If he'd have been not in working for Mitsubishi in Tokyo, he might have died. But so it's a very powerful article about this young guy and other young people that are addicted. And I mean, I look at this one guy here. He's 30 years old. I mean, my son's older than that. He's been in and out of drug centers. He's been in and out of jail. He says in here, I got blown up 7 times, he says. I would go see my medic, get bandaged, get Perks, which is Percocet or Percodan, and get on with it. He lost his marriage, his savings, his job, and was discharged for substance abuse in February 2014. This is a 30-year-old guy, so maybe he was a young man, barely into his adulthood when this all was set upon him. Of course, he's a working class guy from Oklahoma. And so you got this real crisis here, and the thing is with the military is there's a very small percentage of American families that are suffering the burden of these predatory wars that the US is fighting on behalf of the corporations. But I mean, it's just so frustrating and makes you so angry. It talks about how it says here, addicted veterans. Talking about them being referred to one of the VA's 43 inpatient rehab centres around the country, which combined have 906 beds. 906 beds, according to the VA audit. Waits are usually longer than 30 days, and beds often stay empty because of lack of staffing, the audit said. It's staggering that they can even write this without being inflamed. It's just makes you so angry when you think of this. These are our kids. It's not Bush can talk tough. Trump, who's just a complete pimp and a waster, he can talk tough. They all talk tough when it comes to our young people dying, the young people of working class kids dying. So the article goes on about that, and I wanted to say a few things. Firstly, what this person doesn't mention, she's talking about the failure of the VA, but what they don't mention are the wars. The cause of this problem is the wars, and so, but they're untouchable. Military expenditure is untouchable. These wars are not wars, and I want to stress this because we go to a baseball game, we go to the football games. It's everywhere. This praise of the military. This isn't praising the military the way they're treating them here. This isn't praising the military. I've lost 3 or 4 friends of my age who went to Vietnam. I was not in this country, and the British weren't in Vietnam. But I've lost them not so long ago, in the recent period here, due to Agent Orange. The US poured it on its own troops, not just on the Vietnamese. And so they died from cancers related to Agent Orange. And you see Kissinger, this mass murderer, 93 years old. Of course, he can live to 93. There's no fear of him ever having to face somebody being shot at him. But this young guy in here just talks of what he saw, his friends with their limbs blown off, running over Iraqi kids because the policy was not to stop. You just run over them. So they've been through this horror scene. And I remember in that movie, The Ground Truth, when they talk, you should see that film, this interview with these young guys. And one guy says, you know, I never really had much of a relationship with the US government when I got back. But he'd come out of this horror scene, dumped into this horror scene, and everybody's going to shoot back at somebody who's shooting at them. And he says, I'm supposed to get the wife. He got busted for beating up his wife or doing something. I'm supposed to get the wife and kids and pop down the mall as if nothing's happened to me at all. But that's the issue. You're coming back now. It's money out. All the flag waving and crap is gone. We'll save that for the Super Bowl. We'll save it for the sports when we want it, and the games, the military games that the Army invests in. I mean, it's a long article. I'm not going to go much into it, but you know, these guys that are arrested you'll see them on the streets. They're homeless. It was the same with the Vietnam War. And so what I want to stress for me is that when you go to a sports game and you see the ads or anything else, there's a general mood in the country that we support our troops. And it's a little con game they play because there's massive pressure on the rest of us. I don't support our troops being where they are. I don't support these wars. These wars are not fought on our behalf. And we should it's not an insult to our kids, young people of the working class in this country. It's not an insult to tell them you're not serving our interests. You're not defending this country. Who's going to invade the United States? Iran's not going to invade the United States. It would be mass suicide, cultural suicide for any nation to invade the United States. So it's not a disrespect to our young people to say to them, you're not defending the country. What you're doing is you're defending profits. You're defending the interests of U.S. corporations and their struggle for domination of the world's markets, exploitation of brothers and sisters in other countries, whether it's Cambodia or anywhere else in Latin America. That's what you're doing. Now, we know they've got it set up most working class kids don't join the military to go fight wars. My father didn't join the military. He ran away from home when he was a kid. And so most people don't do that. The military is a good deal when there's no war on. But so the thing is education shouldn't be tied. You should get free education where the military should have nothing to do with it. But the ruling class benefits from lack of opportunity for working class youth, so that the military seems an option because their kids have other choices. That's not an option for them. So the other thing I think about as I'm reading this is this, to be honest, it's not an insult to tell them you're not defending the country. I understand if you're, why is this guy's from Oklahoma, a white kid from Oklahoma. We know about the working class down in the South, in the Midwest, a lot of poverty. So the options aren't there. From the same with black youth and minority youth. You don't see Obama's kids. You don't see the Bushes. You don't see. I remember Moore did that film where not one member of Congress had. Anybody in the Middle East. And as far as McCain's concerned, hero of mine sitting in a plane dropping massive bombs on colonial peoples. That's what you did. It's different to being there and jabbing the bayonet in the guy. Okay, and so that's a big issue. I feel we have to be honest about. And the last thing I want to say is, in relation to it, is that the cure for this opioid problem is obviously to not have them go, is to end these wars. The cure for the cuts in social services, one of them, is to end these wars. We got plenty of money. We can have plenty of schools, plenty of hospitals, mass transit, all these things. But they never mention the wars in here. They blame the VA, understaffing. It's like social workers. Whenever there's a child killed, that a social worker is responsible for by a drug addicted or alcoholic ridden parent, my first question is, how many cases does that social worker have? Because they want to blame the social worker. And the thing I think about is, when you see people with a hand over their heart and all of this stuff and singing national anthems and everything, that is a con game, because it puts it when people like me, and there's lots of us like me, I oppose these. I want those kids back. I don't want to spend the money. I don't want them to lose their lives. If my kid lost his life in this crap for them, I would be angry. I know where I would be angry at. It wouldn't be angry at Iraqis, Muslims, or anybody in the Middle East who have been savaged by the Western imperialist countries and Western corporations. But they make it so there's this massive pressure that we must all stick together with them. I don't stick together with them. I don't stick together with the boss when I'm on a picket line. I don't stick together with the bosses when they evict 5 million Americans from their homes. The unemployed make people unemployed. I don't stick together with them. And so there's a massive pressure. And I think some of us, what we do is, many people feel like me, but there's this social pressure. That's not freedom. That's not freedom when we can't speak out without fear of losing our jobs, pressure. We live in a society where everything's kept into place by coercion in one form or another. So I wanted to just talk about that. It's disgusting, this crisis. 300,000, and a huge percentage of them are veterans, and those would be working class kids. There's a simple solution: get out of this. Don't fight it over there. And we need, of course, to do that. We need to build a mass movement, a direct action movement. We have to build a party of our own. The Democrats, Hillary Clinton would carry on. Obama's been the deporter in chief. He's been massacring children and communities in the former colonial countries. Hillary Clinton would be even worse. It doesn't matter. These people, Trump we're just in hopefully in some way there'll be something positive that as we always say, that sometimes the working class needs the whip of the counter-revolution of reaction to get people to wake up a little bit. And I think that's what a lot of people do by just participating in this patriotic stuff. Most of the people I work with love America. They love it because they hunt, because they fish, because they camp. What it means for working class people, for how we grew up, our mates, our friends, and our communities. Not the communities of the hedge fund managers, Warren Buffett, Donald Trump, or any of those people. It's what we know as home, and it's very different from the America they know as home. So I just want to comment on a couple of these things, and I'll put a link to this article, or at least the title of it, as I get together. I'm not very good at this video stuff, and this camera kicks off at 20 minutes, which is not a bad time, but I'm not very good at editing either, so I want to have to buy another camera. But anyway, that's me. Facts for Working People. My name's Richard Meller, and I'll put a link to this article on this clip here. All right, take care.